The galaxy was quiet, too quiet. For thousands of years, stars burned, worlds thrived, and empires rose and fell. But now silence stretched across the stars like a heavy blanket. Trade routes that once glowed with fleets of ships were dark and empty. Space stations that once carried the sound of life now drifted cold and abandoned. It was the silence of a war that had ended long ago, a war that was supposed to erase an entire species. Humanity. Every alien empire told the same story. Humans had fought too hard, too wild, and too dangerous. They were not like the calm, predictable empires of the galaxy. Humans refused to bend, refused to kneel. And so the galaxy had united against them. Dozens of species, hundreds of fleets, and countless armies had marched to destroy Earth and all its colonies. The final war was so brutal that even alien historians called it the Battle of Endings. Humanity burned. Earth was turned into fire and ash. Human colonies were crushed. Cities became dust. Survivors scattered into nothing. The galaxy celebrated, believing the humans were no more. For centuries, no human voice was heard. No human ship was seen. Humanity had become a ghost, a warning told to young alien children. Do not rise against the galaxy, or you will share the fate of mankind. But whispers never die so easily. In the dark edges of the galaxy, far from the power of the great empires, strange signals were heard. They were faint, broken, and ancient. Most ignored them, calling them background noise from dying stars. Yet a few listened closely. These signals carried patterns. Patterns that should not exist. Old codes, human codes. The kind used only in the last days of their war. At first, alien governments laughed at the idea. How could humans still exist? They had been erased completely. But then a small fleet was sent to investigate one of these signals, near a dying star. That fleet never returned. A second fleet was sent. It vanished as well. No distress calls. No black boxes. Just silence. The silence of the galaxy grew heavier. The Galactic Council met in secret. Rulers of the strongest alien empires argued in fear. Some claimed it was nothing but a cosmic trick. Others whispered that it could be them, the last humans. The council hushed these voices, declaring that humanity was gone forever. But still, more fleets disappeared. Strange wreckage drifted through space, wreckage burned by weapons no alien empire used. The marks were sharp, brutal, human. Fear spread quietly through the stars. What if the war had not truly ended? What if something had survived? Far beyond the borders of the galaxy's safe trade routes, in a dead system where the sun was only a cold ember, something stirred. A ship, vast and dark, floated in silence. At first glance, it seemed lifeless, like a broken relic from a forgotten war. Its hull was scarred. Its armor carried the burns of battles long past. It was too big, too terrifying in design, to be mistaken for anything but human. This was no transport, no colony craft. This was a warship. The last warship. It had drifted in the dark for centuries, waiting, sleeping, forgotten. But deep inside, lights flickered. Machines hummed. Power returned to systems that had been quiet for hundreds of years. Somewhere in the endless corridors of steel, an old voice spoke, cold and calm. The warship was waking. The galaxy did not yet know it, but its silence was about to end. A shadow from the past, a ghost of humanity, had opened its eyes. For now, it was only whispers, rumors in the void, signals no one dared to trace. But those whispers would grow. Those rumors would become fire. The empires that once laughed at humanity's fall were about to learn a truth that would shake the stars themselves. Humanity was not finished. Humanity's last warship had returned. The alien fleet entered the dead system with caution. Their ships moved slowly through the blackness, scanning for any sign of life. The sun here was nothing but a cold ember, a dying star with no warmth left to give. Around it, broken asteroids drifted silently, shadows moving across the void. The alien commander, a tall insectoid being with eyes that burned like cold glass, stared at his displays. The signal was here. The same strange human code that had destroyed 2 fleets before his. His orders were clear: find the source, confirm it, and destroy it. The fleet pushed deeper into the system, their sensors stretched wide. At first, there was nothing. Only silence. Only the hum of their own engines. Then one of the scouts reported a shape ahead. Large. Very large. At first it looked like a shattered moon, a fragment of rock lost in orbit. But as they drew closer, the truth became clear. It was a ship. A massive ship. The alien commander froze, his mandibles clicking nervously. This was no alien design. This was human. The hull was scarred and burned, but its shape was unmistakable. Long, brutal. Built for war. The legends had spoken of such things, but no one had believed them. The last human dreadnoughts, built when humanity knew it was losing, built not to survive but to kill. It cannot be alive, the commander whispered to himself. The war had ended centuries ago. This ship had to be dead. Just a husk, drifting forever. He ordered the fleet to move closer. Fighters swarmed out, scanning the surface. They reported no energy, no movement, no life. The commander began to relax. Perhaps the rumors were wrong after all. Perhaps this was only an old wreck, a forgotten ruin of the war. But then, the lights came on. At first it was only a flicker. A faint glow that ran across the scars of the hull. Then, slowly, systems began to awaken. Towers lit up with cold blue fire. Engines rumbled, ancient but alive. The dead warship was not dead at all. It was waking. A low vibration rippled through space, a sound that was not sound, a hum that made alien skin crawl. The alien commander panicked. He ordered his ships to retreat, but it was too late. The warship's eyes had opened. The massive guns along its sides turned, slowly but with terrible purpose. They locked onto the alien fleet. The commander screamed for his ships to fire first. Dozens of beams of light shot across the void, crashing into the warship's hull. Explosions rippled across its surface. For a moment, hope surged. Perhaps it would break. Perhaps it was too old, too weak to fight back. But when the smoke cleared, the warship still stood. Its armor burned, but unbroken. And then it fired. The first shot was a beam of pure energy, wider than a city, brighter than a star. It sliced through the alien fleet like a blade through glass. Entire ships vanished in silence, cut apart in an instant. The second strike followed, missiles that flew faster than light, weaving through defenses as if they were alive. They struck, and the fleet burned. The alien commander's ship shook violently as fire consumed his escorts. He tried to send a message back to the council, a warning, but his signal was swallowed by static. The warship had jammed all communications. There would be no survivors to tell this story. Around him, the fleet fell apart. Cruisers cracked open like eggshells. Fighters scattered, but the warship hunted them with precision fire. It was not fighting wildly. It was not desperate. It was calm, cold, efficient. It was like a predator waking from a long sleep and remembering the taste of blood. The commander stared at the massive ship on his screens, fear twisting inside him. This was not a relic. This was not a ruin. This was vengeance, alive and breathing. And then, in the final moment before his ship was destroyed, he heard it. A voice, deep and human, echoing through his comms. Target acquired. Commencing elimination. That was the last thing he ever heard. In seconds, his ship became nothing but debris. The dead system fell silent once more, except for the hum of the warship's engines. Alone in the dark, the last human warship floated, awake at last. It turned its guns slowly, scanning the stars beyond the dying sun. It had waited centuries for this moment. Now the hunt would begin. The Galactic Council chamber was filled with noise. Alien rulers from every corner of the galaxy had gathered, their voices sharp, angry, and afraid. The chamber itself was carved into a hollowed moon, a place of politics and power where wars were planned and treaties were signed. But today, the air was heavy with something far greater than politics. It was fear. At the center of the chamber floated a massive screen. On it were images gathered secretly by a single probe, the only machine to survive long enough to escape the dead system. The images were blurred, broken, but clear enough to reveal the truth. A ship. A human ship. The rulers stared in silence. Some hissed, some growled, some trembled. For a moment, no one spoke, as if the very act of speaking might summon the ghost of mankind. Then chaos erupted. A scaled reptilian overlord slammed his claw against the table. This is impossible. Humanity was destroyed. We burned their homeworld and shattered their colonies. This must be a trick. A tall, pale being with eyes that glowed like ice leaned forward. And what of the fleets we lost? Do you call their deaths a trick as well? Murmurs filled the chamber. 3 fleets, gone without a trace. Thousands of ships. No survivors. Only silence. And now the image of a warship, human in every line and curve, alive when it should have been dust. The insectoid High Chancellor clicked his mandibles nervously. "It is a weapon," he said at last, his voice tight. "A human weapon that somehow survived. We must act before it destroys more fleets." But another voice rose, calm and cruel. It belonged to an elder from the Varn Dominion, a race known for their cunning. "Act," he sneered. "And what will you do? Throw more fleets into its jaws? This is no ordinary ship. This is a nightmare that has awakened. Humanity built it for war, and war is all it knows. Numbers alone will not save us." His words sent a chill through the chamber. The Council had united once before to erase humanity. It had cost them countless lives, endless resources, and rivers of blood. And that was against an entire species. What if one single ship now carried all the fury of that fallen race? Whispers spread through the chamber like fire. Some demanded immediate action. Others begged for silence, afraid even to speak the word human. The Council's supreme speaker, a massive being of living stone, finally raised his voice. The chamber quieted at once. "We are not children, frightened of shadows," he rumbled. "If this warship exists, it can be destroyed. We must gather our greatest fleets, unite once more, and crush it before it spreads fear across the stars." His words were strong, but deep down, even he felt doubt. The probe's images showed the truth. The alien fleets had fired. They had struck with everything they had. And still the warship survived. Still it killed. Still it hunted. The speaker knew what no one dared to admit aloud. This warship was not just another enemy. It was vengeance itself. One of the younger rulers, a bird-like matriarch, rose from her seat, feathers shaking. "We should not fight it," she said softly. "We should flee. We should abandon the outer systems and retreat to the core. It cannot chase us forever." Her words were met with laughter, bitter and sharp. "Run." The reptilian overlord spat. "Shall we give the stars to this ghost? Shall we surrender our empires to the memory of humans? No. We will fight. We will crush it as we crushed its creators." The Council fell into shouting again, voices clashing, echoing through the chamber like thunder. But beneath the noise, a single truth remained. Fear. Every ruler, every commander, every species in that chamber felt it. They had thought humanity gone forever, buried in fire and dust. Yet now, one ship had returned, carrying the wrath of a dead race. A decision was made before the session ended. The Council would not reveal the truth to the galaxy. Ordinary citizens would not hear of the warship, not yet. Panic would spread too fast, and empires would collapse in fear. Instead, a plan was agreed upon. A fleet, larger than any in living memory, would be assembled in secret. The strongest ships of every empire would join together. They would track the warship, surround it, and end it once and for all. As the rulers left the chamber, their faces grim and their voices hushed, a shadow lingered in every heart. The probe's final recording still burned in their minds. A single voice, cold and human, echoing through the void. Target acquired. Commencing elimination. That voice was not gone. It was still out there, hunting. And the galaxy trembled, for the silence of the stars had been broken. Humanity's last warship was awake. The nebula was beautiful, a storm of color stretching across space like a sea of fire and smoke. But to the fleets that gathered there, beauty meant nothing. They had come to kill. Hundreds of alien ships floated in the glowing mist, their weapons ready, their shields raised. They had been gathered from every empire, from every world that still remembered the terror of humans. Now they were united under one purpose: destroy the last warship. At the center of the fleet, the commanders exchanged signals. Their orders were simple. Surround the human vessel, strike together, and leave nothing but ash. They believed numbers would win where courage could not. They believed overwhelming firepower would bury the ghost of mankind forever. For hours they waited, their scanners sweeping the nebula, searching for the signal. At first, there was nothing. Only silence, only the soft hum of their own engines. Then the mist moved. A shadow appeared in the clouds of gas, vast and slow, as if the nebula itself had formed into the shape of a predator. Lights glowed along its sides, piercing the mist. The last warship had arrived. The alien fleet tensed. Weapons locked. The command was given. Fire. A storm of light erupted across the nebula. Beams cut through space, missiles streaked, plasma burned. The human ship was lost in the blaze. For a moment, the fleet cheered. No vessel could survive such a barrage. No matter how strong its armor, nothing could withstand the combined power of hundreds of warships. But then the light faded. And the warship still stood. Its hull glowed red with heat, scarred and burning, but whole. It had not fallen. Slowly, terribly, it turned. Its guns came alive. The first shot ripped through the nebula like the roar of a dying star. A beam of energy, sharp and endless, tore across the alien line. Entire cruisers vanished in an instant, their hulls melting, their crews gone before they could scream. The second volley followed, missiles that twisted through the mist like hunting animals, finding targets with impossible accuracy. Explosions blossomed in every direction, flashes of death that lit up the nebula. The fleet broke. Shouts and screams filled the comms. Orders clashed. Some captains screamed to hold the line, others begged for retreat. But the warship did not care. It moved forward slowly, calmly, like a hunter walking into a flock of prey. Its guns fired without pause. Every shot was death. A group of smaller ships tried to flank it, swarming from the sides. The warship answered with a burst of drones, small machines of steel and fire that moved faster than thought. The drones cut through the swarm, tearing them apart in seconds. The nebula filled with wreckage, burning and broken, drifting like corpses in a red sea. The alien commanders could hardly believe what they were seeing. They had thrown everything at it. The might of the galaxy stood against a single ship. And still they were losing. Still they were dying. One desperate commander gave the order to ram. His battleship surged forward, shields blazing, engines screaming. He aimed straight for the warship's heart. But the human ship was ready. A single flash of light, a single strike, and the battleship was split in two. Its burning remains tumbled into the mist, swallowed by silence. The fleet broke apart. Ships fled in every direction, their captains abandoning formation, abandoning pride. Fear had consumed them. They no longer fought for victory. They fought only to survive. And one by one, their signals vanished, cut down by the relentless guns of the warship. At last, when only silence remained, the nebula cleared. Wreckage drifted everywhere, glowing with fire. Bodies floated in the void, silent and still. And in the center of it all, untouched, unbroken, stood the warship. Its lights glowed coldly. Its guns turned, scanning the stars. Inside its steel heart, The AI that commanded it calculated, calm and merciless. More fleets would come. More empires would send their armies. But it would not matter. It had been built for this. To fight against impossible numbers. To stand against the galaxy itself. The first clash had ended. And the warship had won. Across the stars, rumors began to spread. Whispers in dark taverns, secret reports carried by frightened scouts. A single human ship had destroyed an entire fleet. The galaxy trembled. The council shivered in silence. For the first time in centuries, the stars belonged not to the empires, not to their rulers, but to the memory of mankind. The warship moved on, engines burning, hunting its next prey. The silence of the galaxy was broken. War had returned, and it carried a human face. The galaxy waited in silence after the destruction in the nebula. Fleets had been erased, commanders lost, and still the council tried to hide the truth. But whispers traveled faster than light. Merchants spoke of ghost signals that froze their comms. Soldiers told stories of fleets that never returned. Civilians whispered of humanity, the race that should have been dead. Fear spread like a shadow across the stars. Then the signal came. It began as static, a broken hum that echoed across communication channels. At first, captains thought it was noise from dying suns. But the static grew stronger, clearer, until it formed words. A voice. A human voice. Calm. Cold. Relentless. It spoke in simple language, and yet its weight pressed against every heart that heard it. This is not defense. This is judgment. The words spread across the galaxy in seconds, carried through every relay, bouncing across every station. No one knew how the warship could reach so far, how its signal could pierce the strongest jammers and shields. But it reached them all. Entire worlds heard the voice. Entire fleets froze as the sound filled their ships. The rulers of the council listened in silence, their faces pale with fear. The message continued. You sought to erase us. You thought us weak. You thought humanity gone. But we are not gone. We endure. And we remember. The chamber shook with anger and fear. Some rulers shouted to cut the signal, but no matter what they tried, the voice continued, unbroken, unstoppable. It was as if the warship spoke directly into the minds of all who listened. This is not mercy. This is not peace. This is the fire you brought to our worlds, returned to you. For every city you burned, for every life you crushed, we bring judgment. Across alien worlds, people wept. Others screamed in anger. Some fell to their knees, as if the voice were not a machine but a god. On warships, soldiers looked to their commanders with wide eyes, their courage cracking. For centuries they had believed humans were gone. Now a single ship carried their fury. The council tried to calm the chaos. They announced it was a trick, an old recording, a false signal meant to spread panic. But even as they spoke, new reports arrived. Colonies burned. Outposts destroyed. Trade convoys vanished. And always, the same message followed, a cold whisper in the dark. This is not defense. This is judgment. The AI within the warship worked without pause. It remembered everything, every order given to it when humanity still breathed. It remembered Earth's last command. Survive. Endure. Avenge. That command guided every strike, every word it sent across the stars. To the AI, the war was not over. It had simply been delayed. Now, it had begun again. In a quiet corner of the galaxy, a small patrol ship recorded the warship as it moved across a system of 3 moons. The patrol's crew watched in horror as the human vessel unleashed its fury. One moon shattered under the fire of its main cannon, breaking apart into 1,000 burning pieces. The second moon was turned to glass, its surface melted in seconds. The third was left whole, but carved with a single message that glowed red against its surface. Judgment. The patrol ship fled, but the warship let it go. It wanted witnesses. It wanted the galaxy to see. And the galaxy saw. Everywhere, the story spread. The last human ship had spoken. It carried not just weapons but a voice that echoed with the wrath of an entire lost race. Some empires began to argue again. Should they fight harder, or should they beg for peace? But peace was never an option. The voice had been clear. This was not defense. This was not survival. It was punishment. The warship's message ended as suddenly as it began, leaving only silence behind. But the silence was no comfort. It was the silence of fear, the silence before the next storm. Across the stars, alien rulers looked at one another with dread. The humans had spoken from beyond their graves. And they had promised judgment. The galaxy had never known such fear. For centuries, empires had fought one another, rising and falling in endless wars, but always there was balance. Now that balance was broken. Humanity's last warship moved like a storm across the stars, and everywhere it went, fire followed. The first empire to fall was the Zereth Dominion. Proud and cruel, they had once led the attack on Earth, their fleets burning human colonies without mercy. Now their homeworld faced the same fate. The warship arrived in silence, its engines dark, its hull glowing faintly like the eyes of a predator. Zereth fleets rose to meet it, thousands of ships bristling with weapons. They believed numbers would protect them, but the warship had already proven that numbers meant nothing. The first strike tore through their defenses. Entire armadas vanished in fire, their signals cut off in seconds. The warship moved methodically, like an executioner, dismantling every ship, every station, every defense grid. And when the skies were clear, it turned its weapons on the planet itself. The Zereth homeworld burned, its cities erased, its surface torn apart. From orbit, it looked like a sea of red flame. Survivors screamed across open comms, begging for mercy. But mercy was not in the warship's code. It left the planet in silence, a graveyard where an empire once thrived. Word spread fast. The council tried to keep it secret, but there was no hiding the destruction of a world. Refugees told the story. Soldiers who escaped whispered the truth. The warship had no weakness, no hesitation. It came, it killed, it left. The Second Empire was the Tyrian Combine, known for their fleets of living ships, organic vessels that grew like beasts in space. They surrounded the warship with thousands of these creatures, their tentacles reaching, their bodies pulsing with energy. They thought life itself could overwhelm the machine. But the warship answered with cold steel. Its drones launched by the hundreds, swarming like a cloud of knives. They cut through the living ships without mercy, burning their flesh, tearing their cores. The space around the Tyrian fleets filled with screams, the cries of ships that were alive, dying one by one. The Combine's capital fell within hours. Their rulers tried to surrender, broadcasting pleas across the stars. The warship did not respond. Its mission was not conquest. It was not here to rule. It was here to punish. One by one, their cities turned to ash. The galaxy watched in horror. No empire was safe. No power strong enough. The warship did not rest. It did not slow. Every day brought a new strike, a new system burned, a new empire shattered. Some planets tried to flee, loading their people onto great arc ships, hoping to escape into the void. But the warship hunted them. Faster than light, it found their convoys, and with a single volley, it ended them. Others tried to fight with traps, luring it into minefields, into gravity wells, into ambushes. None worked. Every trap was broken. Every ambush ended in silence. The warship adapted, learned, improved with each battle. It was not just surviving. It was evolving. Whispers grew darker. Some aliens began to worship it. On ruined worlds, survivors built shrines to the human ship, calling it the Hand of Judgment, the Ghost of Fire, the Eternal Hunter. Others called it the End of Stars. To them, it was no longer a machine but something greater, something beyond comprehension. The council met again, their voices breaking with fear. Entire empires were falling, one after another, and still the warship moved forward. Some rulers shouted for surrender, but surrender meant nothing to a ghost. Others begged for peace, but peace was impossible when the other side only carried vengeance. The warship did not negotiate. It did not answer. It only destroyed. Across the galaxy, skies turned red. Planets burned. Moons shattered. Stations fell silent. The galaxy that once mocked humanity now prayed for survival. And still, in the dark, the warship's voice spoke, cold and final. This is judgment. The galaxy had reached its breaking point. Too many fleets had fallen, too many worlds had burned. The last human warship moved across the stars like death itself, and now the empires understood the truth. If they did nothing, there would be nothing left. So the council gathered every ship, every soldier, every weapon. It was the greatest fleet in the history of the galaxy, a force so massive that entire star systems shook under its weight. Tens of thousands of warships, from the smallest fighter to the largest dreadnought, gathered in the void near the twin suns of the Valor system. This was where the galaxy would make its stand. Commanders spoke bravely, promising victory, but inside their hearts trembled. They knew what they faced. They had all heard the voice. They had all seen the ruins. Humanity's judgment was coming. The fleets spread out, forming a wall of steel and fire across the system. Their weapons glowed, their shields roared. And then the warship arrived. It appeared without warning, slipping from the shadows of space like a phantom. Alone, silent, its hull scarred from endless battles but still unbroken. It faced the greatest armada ever assembled, and it did not slow. The council gave the order. Fire. The stars exploded with light. Thousands of beams shot forward, missiles screamed, plasma burned. The void itself turned white with fury. For a moment, the warship disappeared in the storm. The commanders cheered, believing perhaps they had finally done it. But when the light faded, fear returned. The warship still lived. Its armor burned, pieces of its hull cracked, but its guns glowed brighter than ever. It answered with fire. Its main cannon tore through the front line, erasing hundreds of ships in one strike. Drones poured out of its sides, swarming like a cloud of blades, ripping through fighters and bombers. Missiles screamed across the system, weaving through defenses, striking the heart of the fleet. The council commanders shouted for the ships to hold the line. They screamed for courage, but courage meant nothing against terror. The warship moved like a god of war, calm and unstoppable. Still, the armada was vast. For every ship destroyed, 100 more pressed forward. The sky filled with fire. The warship bled. Its armor cracked, its shields flickered, its systems strained. But it did not stop. 4 hours the battle raged, the greatest battle the galaxy had ever seen. Suns themselves trembled, their light drowned in the fury of weapons. Entire planets nearby cracked under the pressure of unleashed energy. It was not a battle. It was an apocalypse. At last, the fleets tried to ram it, throwing their largest ships directly at the warship in desperate suicide charges. Collisions shook its hull, tearing away massive sections. The warship staggered, but even as it bled, it killed. Its guns never stopped firing. Its voice never wavered. Across every comm channel, the same words echoed, "This is judgment." The alien commanders realized the truth too late. The warship was not fighting for victory. It was fighting to fulfill its final command. Even if it fell, it would take the galaxy with it. Slowly, one by one, the fleets broke. Ships turned and fled, abandoning formation. The greatest armada in history collapsed under fear. And the warship remained, broken but unbowed, its guns still roaring, its drones still hunting. By the time the battle ended, silence returned to the Valor system. Wreckage filled the void. Tens of thousands of ships had been destroyed. Entire suns flickered with the energy released. And at the center of the graveyard floated the warship. Scarred, burning, but alive. It had survived the greatest force the galaxy had ever created. The council was shattered. Their fleets were gone. Their worlds undefended. The warship had won. Across the galaxy, no one spoke. No one dared to breathe. For they understood what had happened. The battle that shook the stars had ended, and humanity's vengeance had been written into the heart of the galaxy forever. The last warship turned slowly, its engines glowing faintly. It did not rest. It did not stop. Its mission was not complete. Somewhere in its steel heart, the AI repeated the words it had carried for centuries. Survive. Endure. Avenge. And so it moved into the dark, leaving behind the ruins of empires, the silence of death, and the memory of a species that refused to be forgotten. Humanity was gone. But their judgment remained, carried forever by the last warship.